The station called Havenring floated quietly between two blue stars, shining like a silver circle in the dark. It was a place where many species lived together, a place built for peace, trade, and understanding. Humans were still new here. They had only joined the interstellar community a few years ago, and most aliens thought of them as ordinary, friendly, adaptable, but not very special. The human named Eli did not know this reputation mattered at all. Eli had come to Havenring as a cultural analyst, which meant he talked to people, a lot. His job was to listen, explain, translate emotions into words, and help different species understand each other better. He was good at it, not because he was trained for years, but because he was human. Talking, listening, and connecting came naturally to him. He shared a living unit with an alien named Kurthala. Kurthala belonged to a species known for their calm logic and deep emotional bonds. They were tall, smooth-skinned, with dark eyes that reflected light like still water. Their voices were soft and slow, and their movements were careful. Like every step had meaning. When Havenring assigned them as roommates, the station AI had called it a low-risk, high-efficiency pairing. At first, it truly was. They respected each other's space. They shared meals in silence or light conversation. Eli talked about Earth sometimes, about rain, music, crowded cities, and late-night talks with friends. Kurthala listened closely, always attentive, always remembering. That was the first strange thing Eli noticed. Kurthala remembered everything. Not just facts, but tone, timing, expressions. If Eli sighed while mentioning home, Kurthala noted it. If he smiled while talking about a coworker, Kurthala noted that too. Eli thought it was just politeness, maybe curiosity. He did not realize it was something much deeper. Life on the station slowly pulled Eli into its rhythm. Other aliens began to notice him. Some came with questions about humans. Others came because they enjoyed his company. Eli listened to them all. He explained jokes. He shared stories. He laughed easily and asked questions back. For many species, this was unusual. Most races formed social bonds carefully and slowly. Attention meant intention. Intention meant commitment. But humans did not work that way. Eli could talk deeply with one alien in the morning, joke with another in the afternoon, and share tea with a third in the evening, all without thinking twice. To him, it was normal. To Kurthala, it was not. At first, the signs were small. When Eli returned to their shared unit after a long day, Kurthala would already be awake, even if it was not their usual cycle. Their eyes would follow Eli just a little longer than before. They would ask gentle questions. "You interacted with 5 individuals today," Kurthala said once, voice calm. Eli smiled. "That sounds about right." "Busy day. 2 of them were not part of your assigned duties," Kurthala added. Eli laughed lightly. "Yeah, they just wanted to talk." Kurthala paused.
"About what?" "About life. Mostly. One wanted to understand human music.
Another was stressed about negotiations. I see," Kurthala said. They did not say anything more, but something about the air felt heavier. Over the next few days, it continued. Eli noticed that common areas were suddenly occupied when he tried to sit with others. Doors closed a second earlier than usual. Messages from other aliens were delayed or redirected through the station system. None of it was obvious enough to feel wrong. It was subtle, careful, polite. Kurthala never raised their voice, never accused, never demanded. But they watched. One evening, Eli sat in the shared kitchen, speaking with a small, feathered alien through a holocall. The alien was laughing, clearly relaxed. Eli smiled back, enjoying the easy moment. Kurthala stood in the doorway, silent. Their chest markings, usually steady in color, shifted slightly darker. When the call ended, Eli turned.
Hey, you need the kitchen?"
"No," Kurthala said. "You may continue." Eli tilted his head, I'm done anyway. Kurthala stepped closer, movements slow.
That individual appeared comfortable with you? Eli shrugged. I guess.
We talk a lot. Frequently? Yeah. Kurthala looked away. I was not informed. Eli frowned slightly. Informed? There was a pause. In my culture, Kurthala said carefully, repeated attention indicates prioritization. Eli smiled, thinking it was a cultural curiosity. Oh. For humans, it doesn't always mean that.
We can care about many people at the same time.
Kurthala said nothing. That night, Eli slept easily. Kurthala did not. Their species had evolved on a harsh world where survival depended on strong, focused bonds. Emotional energy was not spread wide. It was invested deeply. To give attention was to give safety. To receive it was to be chosen. Eli was giving it away freely. The station AI quietly logged Kurthala's rising stress levels. It flagged nothing urgent. There was no aggression, no rule breaking. Just increased awareness, longer observation cycles, and an unusual number of data requests about human social behavior. Meanwhile, Eli remained unaware. He met more people. He helped smooth misunderstandings. He laughed in corridors. He became, without trying, someone others looked for. Humans, it turned out, were good at this. One afternoon, Eli returned to the unit and found Kurthala reorganizing the shared space. Not aggressively, not messily, just differently. Chairs angled closer together, lights adjusted warmer, personal items placed nearer.
Eli said gently. Did the station request a layout change? No, Kurthala replied.
I'd calculated improved emotional efficiency,
Eli chuckled. Emotional efficiency?
That's new.
Kurthala studied him. You seem more at ease when connection is present. Ellie nodded slowly.
I guess that's true.
Then this configuration supports your needs, Kurthala said. Eli felt a small warmth in his chest. Thanks. That's thoughtful. Kurthala's markings brightened for a brief moment. Later that evening, Eli received a message invitation from another alien. When he accepted it, the room's lights dimmed unexpectedly. System glitch, Eli muttered.
No,
Kurthala said softly. Eli looked up. What? I requested privacy mode. For what reason? Kurthala hesitated. You were leaving?
It's just a short talk,
Eli said.
I'll be back. Kurthala's voice lowered. You speak to many.
Do they all require equal access? Eli paused, finally sensing something was off. Kurthala, is something bothering you? Silence filled the room. Then, very quietly, Kurthala said, I do not understand how you give so much of yourself and remain unchanged. Eli sat down slowly. I don't feel like I'm giving myself away. But you are, Kurthala replied. Repeatedly. Eli searched for the right words. For humans, connection isn't a limited resource. Talking doesn't mean replacing. It just means sharing. Kurthala looked at him, eyes reflecting the light.
In my species, sharing attention creates hierarchy.
Loss is inevitable. Ellie felt a strange mix of sadness and curiosity. I'm not going anywhere. Kurthala did not respond, but their gaze stayed on Eli long after the message invitation expired. Somewhere in the station's data core, the AI updated a quiet note. Human social behavior may require reclassification. And in the shared unit, an alien began to feel something their species had no word for. An emotion born not from fear or survival, but from the simple idea of not wanting to be left behind. The next few cycles on Haven Ring felt normal to Eli, but only on the surface. He woke, worked, talked to people, and returned home. The station light still shifted gently from blue to gold. Corridors still hummed with quiet life. But something underneath had changed, like a current moving just below calm water. Kurthala noticed everything. They noticed the way Eli smiled more easily outside the living unit than inside. They noticed how others leaned toward him when he spoke, how voices softened, how eyes stayed focused on him longer than necessary. None of it was hostile. None of it was secret, and that made it worse. In Kurthala's culture, attention was deliberate. It was measured. It was given only when one was ready to accept responsibility for the emotional outcome. Eli gave it freely, without pause or preparation, like breathing. Kurthala began adjusting their schedule to match his. When Eli woke early, so did Kurthala. When he stayed out late, Kurthala waited. They told themselves it was practical, that shared space required awareness. But the truth sat quietly in their chest, growing heavier with each passing cycle. Eli began to notice the waiting. "You don't have to stay up for me," he said one evening, setting down his bag. "I was not waiting," Kurthala replied calmly. "I was thinking." "About what?" "Human attachment patterns." Eli smiled.
That sounds serious.
"It is," Kurthala said. They moved closer, just enough to share warmth. "You create bonds quickly. Do you ever fear losing them?" Ellie considered this. "Sure, but that's part of life. You don't stop caring just because things might change." Kurthala looked at him. "In my species, care is dangerous unless controlled." "That sounds lonely," Eli said gently. The word struck deeper than intended. Kurthala did not answer. The station AI recorded another increase in stress indicators. At work, Eli continued doing what he always did, listening. An aquatic species struggled with negotiation language. A crystalline being found humor confusing. Eli helped them all, patient and kind, never realizing that every conversation added weight to the invisible tension following him home. Some aliens began visiting the living unit directly. This was new. They knocked politely, requested entry, and stayed only briefly. But each visit tightened something inside Kurthala. Their body language grew stiffer, their responses shorter. After one such visit, Kurthala sealed the door and stood very still. "You did not inform me," they said. Eli blinked. "They just wanted advice." "This space is shared," Kurthala replied. "Shared spaces require consent." "You're right," Eli said quickly. "I'm sorry. I didn't think it would matter." Kurthala studied his face, searching for something. "You often do not think it matters." Eli frowned slightly. "I never want to make you uncomfortable." "I am not uncomfortable," Kurthala said. The lie tasted strange. That night, Kurthala accessed human psychology files again. Words like friendship, casual connection, and emotional openness repeated across the data. None of them explained the tightness in their chest or the sharp pull they felt when Eli laughed with someone else. Jealousy was not a known emotion in their language. But the feeling existed anyway. The station itself seemed to sense the imbalance. Automated systems began adjusting paths, subtly redirecting traffic. Eli did not notice. He assumed it was routine optimization. But he noticed fewer random meetings. "Funny," he muttered one afternoon. "The station feels quieter." Kurthala said nothing. One cycle later, a diplomatic aide approached Eli in the corridor. "You've been harder to reach," the aide said. Eli frowned. "Really? I haven't changed anything." "We sent several requests," the aide replied. "They were rerouted." Eli's smile faded. That evening, he checked the station logs. The pattern was subtle but clear. Communication delays. Path adjustments. Privacy settings activated without his input. All traced back to the shared unit's authorization node, to Kurthala. Eli felt a slow, heavy realization settle in his chest. He did not confront them immediately. He needed to understand first. Humans believed in talking things through, but they also believed in choosing the right moment. That moment came when Kurthala quietly said, "You were not approached today?" Eli looked up.
You noticed? Yes. Did that help? Eli asked carefully.
Kurthala hesitated. "I do not know." Eli took a breath.
Did you change station settings?
Kurthala's markings darkened slightly. "I optimized shared exposure." "That's a fancy way of saying you blocked people," Eli said softly.
"I protected the bond," Kurthala replied. Eli stood.
What bond? The silence stretched long. Our cohabitation? Kurthala said at last.
Eli shook his head gently. "You don't need to protect me from people." "I am not protecting you," Kurthala said. "I am protecting what we have. What we have doesn't disappear just because I talk to others," Eli replied. "In my experience," Kurthala said quietly, "it does." Eli's voice softened.
That's not how humans work. Kurthala looked at him, eyes dark and searching. "Then how do you remain?" Eli stepped closer. "By choosing. Every day."
The words landed harder than expected. Choosing. That was the risk Kurthala had never been built for. The station AI interrupted gently, projecting a neutral tone.
"Conflict indicators detected. Mediation recommended."
Kurthala straightened. "No mediation required." Eli smiled sadly. "I think it might help." The AI logged the request as Kurthala watched Eli sit down again. Calmer now. Something inside them shifted. Control had felt safe. Restriction had felt logical. But neither had brought peace. They realized, with quiet fear, that humans did not bond through possession. They bonded through trust, and trust meant letting go. For the first time in their life, Kurthala wondered if love, whatever form this feeling took, was not something to guard, but something to allow. Outside the living unit, Havenring continued to spin, unaware that a single human and a single alien were about to challenge centuries of emotional instinct simply by talking. And somewhere deep in the station's records, a new note formed. Human influence on non-human emotional frameworks may be significant. The next part would not be quiet. The mediation room was not meant to feel intimidating. But it did. Smooth walls curved inward, glowing with soft, neutral light. The air was warm, perfectly balanced for most species. For Eli, it felt heavy. For Kurthala, it felt exposed. They sat across from each other, a wide table between them that suddenly felt unnecessary. A station mediator floated nearby, its form shifting gently to remain neutral. The station AI spoke through it in a calm, measured tone. "This session is informal," the AI said. "Its purpose is understanding, not judgment." Eli nodded. Kurthala remained still. "The issue," the AI continued, "involves social interference, emotional distress, and potential cultural misunderstanding." Eli took a breath. "I never meant for things to get this far." Kurthala's gaze stayed fixed on the table. "Neither did I." The mediator turned slightly toward Kurthala. "Your recent actions restricted another resident's social access." "Can you explain your reasoning?" Kurthala paused. Their markings shifted slowly, a sign of internal conflict. "I believed I was acting responsibly." "Responsibly how?" Eli asked gently. "In my species," Kurthala said, voice low but steady, "shared living implies shared priority. External emotional investment weakens internal stability." The mediator processed this. "You believed Eli's external interactions threatened your bond?" "Yes," Kurthala replied. Eli leaned forward slightly. "But I never agreed to limit myself. I never knew you felt that way." "That is the difficulty, Kurthala said. Humans do not signal exclusivity clearly. Eli gave a small, sad smile, because we don't usually mean it. The AI recorded elevated emotional readings across multiple species, listening remotely. Word of the mediation had spread faster than expected. Human social behavior was already a topic of interest. The mediator addressed Eli. Can you explain human bonding in simple terms? Eli thought carefully. Humans connect by sharing moments. Talking, listening, helping. These don't cancel each other out. Caring about one person doesn't reduce care for another.
That is inefficient, Kurthala said quietly. Eli blinked, then laughed softly.
Yeah.
But it works for us. The mediator turned back to Kurthala.
Your emotional response resembles what humans call jealousy. The word hung in the air. Kurthala's markings darkened.
That term does not exist in my language. But the feeling does, the mediator replied. Kurthala closed their eyes briefly. Yes. The room was silent. Outside the mediation chamber, representatives from several species watched the feed. This was no longer just a roommate issue. It was a cultural one. Humans had been considered simple, adaptable, social, but shallow. This was proving otherwise. The mediator asked, Kurthala, what did you fear losing? Kurthala answered without hesitation. Stability. Eli frowned. I never thought of our home as unstable. For you, it is not, Kurthala said. For me, it is new. The truth of that settled between them. The AI paused, then spoke. There is concern among the Council that unrestricted human interaction may cause emotional distress among species with exclusive bonding instincts. Eli straightened. Are you saying I should stop talking to people? That is under discussion, the mediator replied carefully. Eli's chest tightened. That's not fair. You are not at fault, the AI said. But your presence has unintended effects.
Eli shook his head.
So does gravity. That doesn't mean we ban planets. A ripple of quiet amusement moved through the observers. Kurthala looked at him, surprised. Eli continued, voice steady. I won't hurt people on purpose, but I won't become less human to make others comfortable. The mediator turned to Kurthala. Can you accept that? Kurthala hesitated. Every instinct screamed no. Control felt safe. Limitation felt logical. But Eli was sitting there, open and honest, not angry, not defensive, just real. I do not know how, Kurthala said truthfully. That's okay, Eli replied softly.
Learning takes time. The AI processed rapidly. Proposed solution. Observational adaptation.
Kurthala will cease interference. Eli will continue normal social behavior. Emotional monitoring will remain active. Several council members objected immediately. This risks further distress. This challenges long-held norms. The AI responded calmly. So did first contact. Silence followed. The decision passed by a narrow margin. As they left the mediation chamber, the station felt different. Eyes followed Eli in the corridors. Whispers moved through the air. Human. Connector. Disruptor. Kurthala walked beside him, posture tense. I have failed, Kurthala said quietly. Eli stopped. No, you tried to protect something you cared about. That does not excuse my actions. No, Eli agreed, but it explains them. They stood there, surrounded by passing aliens who slowed just enough to watch. I'm not leaving, Eli said. But I won't shrink either. Kurthala looked at him. Then I must expand. Eli smiled, warmth spreading through his chest. That's one way to put it. Back in the living unit, the space felt unfamiliar again. Not because of furniture, but because of possibility.
Carthala disabled all restrictions. Every block lifted.
Every reroute undone. Almost immediately, messages began arriving for Eli. Carthala watched. It hurt, but they stayed. They listened as Eli spoke kindly to others, never replacing, never abandoning. When he finished each call, he returned to the shared space. Returned by choice. That realization was slow, but powerful. The station AI logged a decrease in stress. Not gone, but changing. Carthala sat beside Eli, closer than before. You do not lose yourself by sharing. Eli smiled. You don't lose me either. For the first time, Carthala believed it might be true. And across Haven Ring, a quiet understanding spread. Humans did not weaken bonds, they multiplied them. The consequences of that truth were only beginning. Haven Ring had always been proud of its balance. Species with different needs, instincts, and histories lived side by side, guided by careful rules and quiet systems. But after the mediation, that balance began to shift. Not loudly, not all at once. It shifted in small moments. L.A. noticed it first in the corridors. Aliens who once greeted him casually now hesitated, as if unsure. Some still approached him eagerly, but others held back, clearly conflicted. Word had spread that human interaction could cause emotional strain. Some species began advising their members to limit contact. Eli felt it like a cold draft. He did not change his behavior. He still smiled, still listened, still spoke with the same warmth. But now, every conversation carried weight. Carthala walked beside him more often. They did not interfere. They did not redirect. They simply observed, just as the station council had ordered. At first, this was difficult. Every laugh Eli shared with someone else pulled at Carthala's instincts. Every long conversation triggered old warnings deep in their mind. But something new was happening too. Eli always came back. After meetings, after talks, after helping others, he returned to the shared unit. He asked Carthala about their day. He shared meals. He rested in the same quiet space he chose to return. That choice mattered more than Carthala had expected. One cycle, the station council issued a public notice. It was calm, carefully worded, and deeply troubling. Until further study, humans were advised to reduce casual emotional engagement with species known for exclusive bonding. Eli read the notice twice. Then he laughed, not because it was funny, but because it felt unreal. They're asking me to stop being human, he said quietly. Carthala stood beside him, markings shifting. They are afraid. I know, Eli replied, but fear isn't a solution. The notice spread fast. Some aliens supported it. Others were confused. A few were angry. Humans on the station gathered, talking in low voices, their usual openness now tinged with frustration. Eli did not plan to speak to the council. It just happened. During an open forum meant for minor policy discussion, Eli raised his hand. The chamber grew quiet as the human stepped forward. I understand the concern, Eli said, voice steady, but limiting connection won't prevent pain. It'll just create loneliness. A council member responded. Your presence causes emotional disruption.
Eli nodded.
So does growth. Murmurs rippled through the chamber. We don't take.
We don't trap. We don't promise ownership, Ellie continued.
We talk. We listen. We care. And we let people choose. Carthala watched from the side, heart pounding. Eli looked around the room. If someone feels overwhelmed by that, I will respect their boundaries. But I won't close myself off because connection is uncomfortable.
Silence followed.
Then, something unexpected happened. An alien from a highly exclusive species spoke up. The human did not harm me. They listened. When I withdrew, they accepted it. Another added, I felt seen, not claimed. More voices joined, hesitant at first, then stronger. The council listened. For the first time, Carthala felt pride instead of fear. The notice was not revoked, but it was suspended. Further review was ordered. Humans were no longer restricted. Observation continued. That night, back in the living unit, the air felt lighter. You challenged them, Carthala said. Eli shrugged. Someone had to. You risked being isolated. Eli smiled softly. Connection is always a risk. Carthala sat down slowly. In my culture, risk is avoided. And in mine, Eli replied, it's how we grow. The words stayed with Carthala long after Eli went to sleep. Over the next cycles, Carthala tried something new. They spoke to others, not many. Just one at first, a brief conversation in a shared space. It was uncomfortable. Their instincts warned them of loss, of dilution, but nothing bad happened. The next time, they spoke longer. They began to understand something important. Eli's attention did not divide. It expanded. Watching him connect did not weaken their bond. It strengthened trust. Still, the old fear lingered. One evening, Eli prepared to leave for a long meeting. I might be late, he said. Carthala felt the familiar tightness rise. Then they took a breath. I will be here, they said. Eli smiled. I know. When Eli returned hours later, tired but calm, Carthala realized something profound. Waiting did not hurt anymore. It felt peaceful. The station AI logged a critical update. Exclusive bonding species exposed to human social models show adaptive emotional flexibility. The data was clear. Humans were not destabilizing the station. They were teaching it how to breathe. Carthala stood at the viewport one cycle later, watching the stars drift past. Eli joined them. You're quiet, Eli said. I am deciding, Carthala replied. About what? Whether I will continue fearing loss, Carthala said, or choose trust. Eli did not answer. He did not push. He simply stood there. After a long moment, Carthala said, I cannot promise I will never feel jealousy. Eli smiled gently. Neither can humans. But I can promise, Carthala continued, to speak instead of control. Eli turned toward them, eyes warm. That's all anyone can ask. The station lights dimmed into night mode, and Havenring, for the first time in its long history, felt just a little more human. The change on Havenring did not come with alarms or ceremonies. It arrived quietly, in choices made every day by people who were learning something new about themselves. Carthala felt it most strongly. They no longer tracked Eli's movements by habit. They no longer checked station logs or adjusted their schedule to match his exactly. The urge was still there sometimes, a soft pull deep in their instincts, but it no longer controlled them. Instead, they waited. Not out of fear, not out of duty, but out of trust. Eli noticed the difference. He felt it in the way the living unit breathed again, in the calm silence they shared without tension. When he spoke to others and returned home, there was no weight in the air, no unspoken question waiting for him. One cycle, Ellie found Carthala preparing a meal. This alone was unusual. You're cooking? Eli asked with a smile. I am attempting, Carthala replied seriously. Human preparation methods are inefficient. Eli laughed. That's fair. They worked together, quietly. The simple act of sharing the space felt natural now. When the meal was done, they sat across from each other, comfortable in the shared moment. I was invited to join a long-term cultural exchange group, Eli said casually. Carthala's markings shifted, then settled.
That would take time away from the station, Kurthala said.
Yes, Ellie replied. Some travel, too. Kurthala considered this carefully. Old instincts whispered warnings. Loss, distance, uncertainty. They looked at Eli.
Do you want to go? Eli nodded.
I do. Kurthala felt the familiar ache rise. Then they spoke.
I will miss you, they said.
Eli smiled softly. I'll miss you, too. No control, no restriction, just honesty. The station council watched closely. Reports showed something unexpected. Emotional distress among exclusive bonding species was decreasing, not increasing. Humans were not causing chaos. They were creating balance through openness and choice. The council called another session. This time, Kurthala spoke. I once believed stability came from limitation, they said, from narrowing connection until nothing could threaten it. They paused, then continued. I was wrong. The chamber was silent.
Humans do not weaken bonds, Kurthala said. They test them.
And what survives is stronger. The council listened. The station AI updated its classifications. Humans were no longer listed as social anomalies. They were listed as emotional bridges. The decision was unanimous. Restrictions were lifted permanently. That evening, Eli and Kurthala stood together at the viewport, watching the stars.
You changed the station, Eli said.
Kurthala shook their head slightly.
You did?
Eli smiled.
We both did.
Kurthala turned toward him. I still feel jealousy. Eli laughed quietly. So do humans. But now, Kurthala continued, I understand it is not a command. It is a message. Eli nodded.
Exactly. When the time came for Eli to leave, the farewell was calm. No fear.
No panic, just connection. Kurthala watched the transport depart, heart steady. They did not feel abandoned. They felt chosen, and Havenring continued to turn, a little warmer than before. Forever changed by one simple truth. Humans do not take hearts. They teach others how to share them.